You might be wondering whether passing a law automatically changes society and how to write crisp answers on this in your UPSC mains or interview. By the end of this video, you will be completely clear about how social legislation works, when it succeeds, and what exam-friendly points to make. We will start simple and build up. First, the basic ideas about law and society, then clear examples from India, then reasons for failure, and finally, practical mechanisms to make laws work. And towards the end, we will understand a key idea that most UPSC aspirants miss when they write about law-driven social change. Think of laws as formal rules set by the state, like traffic rules written on a signboard, while social norms are the habits people actually follow in daily life. Political authorities create legislation to change behavior or to reflect changing values. But law and society interact in different ways and at different speeds. One main view sees law as order maintaining. It punishes deviance and preserves social control, much like a referee in a game, ensuring rules are followed. The other view treats law as reformist and dynamic. Law can lead social change by shaping behavior, beliefs, and social values over time, acting like a catalyst in a chemical reaction. How these two views help you frame a UPSC answer is important. You can present both perspectives and then argue which fits the Indian context. Legislation usually works in two principal ways. It either codifies practices that people are already adopting, or it attempts to push society toward new norms. When a law aligns with prevailing values, it gets social backing and often succeeds quickly because the public opinion tripod supports the legal change. Conversely, when a law is far ahead of popular belief, it risks becoming a dead letter, resisted in practice, or producing only superficial compliance. Let's look at some Indian examples that work well for UPSC answers because they show the range of outcomes. The Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 helped enforce monogamy and widened civil marriage practices. And it succeeded partly because many people already supported monogamy in practice. The Hindu Succession Act of 1956 strengthened daughters' rights to inheritance, and its acceptance grew with broader public sympathy for gender equality. The Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act created legal clarity for family responsibilities and advanced women's status by making spousal consent important in adoption decisions. These examples are useful in answers because they show legislation succeeding when social attitudes and law move together. But not all laws produce the intended change. Some face deep resistance or weak enforcement and therefore fail to transform private beliefs. The Untouchability Offences Act and later the Protection of Civil Rights Act were progressive on paper. Yet customary practices persisted in many areas because social internalization lagged. The Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961 made dowry illegal. But the practice continued due to entrenched social customs and incentives tied to marriage and status. Similarly, prohibition laws and certain beggary statutes often failed where enforcement and public support were weak, creating illicit markets or social backlash instead. Why do some laws fail to change values in the long run? First, people cannot be legislated into new beliefs overnight. Coercion can produce outward compliance without inner acceptance, which is fragile. Second, weak administrative capacity and poor monitoring leave laws unenforced. And third, conflicting incentives in everyday life make compliance costly or undesirable. Legislation can also have unintended consequences. So mention this briefly in an answer to show depth. For instance, some agricultural or subsidy policies in other countries later reshaped markets in unforeseen ways, highlighting the limits of legislative foresight. So, what increases the effectiveness of social legislation in practice? Mobilizing public opinion through education and campaigns creates receptive social conditions, while community engagement and civil society help adapt laws to local contexts. Administrative enforcement, clear procedures, legal aid, and social support schemes make compliance feasible, and gradual, phased reforms allow correction of unintended outcomes. For UPSC, this framework is powerful. Define terms, present contrasting views, give Indian examples, explain failures, and end with mechanisms to improve effectiveness. Quick recap. Laws can codify or lead change. Success depends on social backing and enforcement. Failures come from lack of internalization and weak implementation. And complementing law with social measures matters most. Remember this key idea that many aspirants miss. Laws rarely change hearts by themselves. They change behavior more reliably when social incentives and public opinion move with the law. If you structure your answer around that insight with examples and policy measures, you will score well on both concept and application in UPSC papers. Keep exploring these examples and practice writing short, structured answers. And if you want a step-by-step lesson, continue learning with EduRev for focused notes and model answers.